The observation deck of Nexus Station buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from 12 different species watched the approaching storm. Through the reinforced transparent steel windows, the void of space seemed deceptively calm. But everyone knew that within hours, this remote outpost would become the epicenter of the most decisive battle in galactic history. Ambassador HFY of the Hegemony adjusted his ceremonial armor, the metallic plates catching the station's artificial light. His species had ruled this sector for over 3 millennia, their fleets legendary for their discipline and overwhelming firepower. Today, they would demonstrate why the Hegemony remained the galaxy's dominant force. "The human delegation has arrived," announced his aide, gesturing toward the airlock where a small group was disembarking from what could only be described as the most unremarkable vessel anyone had ever seen. The human ship, if it could even be called that, looked like a collection of spare parts welded together by someone with more enthusiasm than skill. Its hull was a patchwork of different metals, its engines mismatched, and its overall design so asymmetrical it was almost painful to look at. Several of the alien observers actually laughed. "That's their flagship!" wheezed Ambassador Zextal, his gill slits fluttering with amusement. "It looks like it was built in a scrapyard!" The human delegation was led by a woman who couldn't have been more than 40 standard years old, practically a child by galactic standards. She wore a simple uniform with no ceremonial decorations, her greying hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Everything about her screamed ordinary, unremarkable, forgettable. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force," she announced to the assembled dignitaries. "We're here to discuss the terms of Earth's integration into the galactic hegemony." HFY's mandibles clicked in what passed for a smile among his kind. "Admiral Chen, welcome. Though I must say your vessel is unique." "She's not much to look at," Chen agreed, glancing back at her ship through the viewport. "But she'll do." The negotiations that followed were a formality. Earth was a young world, barely 2 centuries into space travel. Their technology was primitive, their military laughably small. The hegemony had conquered thousands of worlds with similar profiles. The humans would be given a choice: submit peacefully and become a client species, or face the consequences. "Your world has potential," HFY explained, his tone patronizing. "Your species shows promise. Under hegemony guidance, you could achieve great things. But you must understand your place in the galactic order." Admiral Chen listened patiently, occasionally asking questions that seemed almost naive. She inquired about trade routes, resource allocation, and colonial policies with the earnestness of genuinely trying to understand. The alien delegates found her refreshingly reasonable compared to the usual defiant posturing they encountered. "I appreciate your patience in explaining these matters," Chen said finally. "But I'm afraid Earth's answer is no." The observation deck fell silent. HFY's secondary arms twitched, a sign of genuine surprise. "I beg your pardon?" "We decline your generous offer of integration," Chen repeated calmly. "Earth will remain independent." The silence stretched for several heartbeats before erupting into a cacophony of alien voices. Some laughed, others expressed outrage, and a few seemed genuinely concerned for the humans' well-being. "Admiral," HFY said, his voice taking on a harder edge, "perhaps you don't fully understand the situation. The hegemony fleet currently surrounding this system consists of over 300 vessels. Your entire species has what, 50 ships, maybe 100? 47, Chen corrected. And most of those are cargo haulers. Then you understand the futility of resistance." Chen stood, smoothing down her uniform. I understand that you believe overwhelming force guarantees victory. History suggests otherwise. As if on cue, alarms began blaring throughout the station. A communications officer rushed to HFY's side, whispering urgently in his ear. The ambassador's expression shifted from amusement to confusion to something approaching concern. "It seems," he announced to the assembly, "that additional human vessels have just entered the system." The main display activated, showing the tactical situation. The hegemony fleet hung in space like a constellation of death, sleek, powerful warships arranged in perfect formation. And there, scattered seemingly at random throughout the system, were the human ships. They were even more pathetic than anyone had imagined. Each vessel was unique, cobbled together from different technologies and design philosophies. Some looked like they'd been built in asteroid mining facilities. Others resembled converted civilian craft. Not one of them matched the others in size, shape, or apparent capability. 47 ships, Zextool muttered, against 300 of the finest warships in the galaxy. This won't be a battle, it'll be a massacre. Admiral Chen moved to the tactical display, studying it with the same calm attention she'd given to the negotiations. "You're right about one thing, Ambassador. This won't be a battle." The hegemony fleet began its advance, moving with the practiced precision of a force that had conquered half the galaxy. Their formation was textbook perfect. Overlapping fields of fire, mutual support, coordinated targeting. It was beautiful in its deadly efficiency. The human ships, by contrast, seemed to be moving randomly. Some accelerated toward the enemy, others held position, and a few actually appeared to be retreating. There was no visible coordination, no apparent strategy. It was chaos. "What are they doing?" someone whispered. Chen smiled for the first time since arriving. What humans do best: adapting. The first exchange of fire lit up the void. The hegemony ships unleashed coordinated volleys of plasma and particle beams, their targeting computers calculating optimal firing solutions with mathematical precision. The energy weapons streaked across space toward their targets with lethal accuracy. And then something impossible happened. The human ships began to change. It started suddenly. Hull plates shifting, weapon mounts rotating, entire sections of the vessels reconfiguring themselves. The patchwork appearance that had seemed so crude suddenly revealed itself as something far more sophisticated. These weren't poorly built ships. They were adaptive platforms designed to modify themselves in real time. The hegemony's perfectly calculated shots struck targets that were no longer where they were supposed to be. Weapons designed to penetrate standard armor configurations found themselves facing hull compositions that shouldn't have been possible. Energy beams that should have carved through metal instead scattered harmlessly off surfaces that had somehow become reflective. Impossible, HFY breathed. No species has ever developed truly adaptive ship technology. No species has ever needed to, Chen replied. Most civilizations develop along predictable paths. They find what works and stick with it. Humans are different. We've spent our entire history adapting to environments that should have killed us. Our technology reflects that. The battle, if it could still be called that, continued to unfold in ways that defied conventional understanding. The human ships weren't just adapting their defenses, they were learning from each attack, sharing information instantaneously across their entire fleet. Every shot the hegemony fired taught the humans something new about their enemy's capabilities, and the humans were teaching lessons of their own. If you're enjoying this tale of human adaptability and ingenuity, hit that subscribe button and let us know in the comments what your favorite sci-fi movie is. The one that first showed you how awesome space battles could be. A hegemony cruiser, confident in its superior firepower, closed distance with what appeared to be a damaged human vessel. The human ship looked like it was barely holding together, its hull scarred and systems flickering. It seemed like an easy target. The cruiser's captain learned too late that appearances could be deceiving. The damaged human ship suddenly unfolded like a mechanical flower, revealing weapon systems that had been hidden within its seemingly broken hull. But these weren't conventional weapons. They were something entirely new. Instead of trying to overpower the hegemony shields, they bypassed them entirely, using frequencies and targeting methods that the aliens' defensive systems hadn't been programmed to recognize. The cruiser didn't explode in a dramatic fireball. It simply stopped working. Its engines went dark, its weapons powered down, and its crew found themselves drifting helplessly as their ship's systems failed one by one. They're not trying to destroy us, Kethvar realized with growing horror. They're disabling us. Across the battlefield, the pattern repeated. Human ships that looked like they were barely functional revealed hidden capabilities that turned the tide of individual engagements. The hegemony's numerical advantage meant nothing when their ships were being systematically neutralized without being destroyed. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. "Admiral," the communications officer called out, his voice tight with disbelief, "we're receiving surrender requests from 17 hegemony vessels." "Surrender?" Kethvar's voice cracked. "That's impossible. Hegemony ships don't surrender." Chen turned to face him, her expression sympathetic but firm. Please, let us know in the comments what your favorite sci-fi movie is. The one that first showed you how awesome space battles could be. What was yours? Hegemony cruiser suddenly unfolded like a mechanical flower, revealing weapon systems that had been hidden within its seemingly broken hull. They do when their crews realize they're not in any real danger. "We could have destroyed your fleet, Ambassador. Instead, we chose to show mercy." The tactical display told the story in stark detail. Of the 300 hegemony ships that had entered the system, nearly half were now disabled and drifting. Not destroyed, disabled. Their crews were alive, their ships could be repaired, but they were completely helpless. The remaining vessels found themselves facing a terrible choice: continue fighting against an enemy that had already demonstrated its superiority, or accept the inevitable. "How?" Kethvar asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "How did you develop such technology?" Chen moved to the viewport, looking out at the aftermath of the battle. "We didn't develop it, Ambassador. We evolved it. Every human ship you see out there was built by a different colony, using different resources and facing different challenges. We didn't have the luxury of standardization. We had to make do with whatever we could find." She gestured to her own vessel, still looking like a collection of spare parts, despite its demonstrated capabilities. That ship was built in the asteroid belt, using salvaged mining equipment and civilian components. The one next to it was constructed in a gas giant's atmosphere using materials that don't exist anywhere else. Every single vessel in our fleet is unique because every single human community had to solve the problem of survival in their own way. The implications were staggering. While other species had developed along predictable technological paths, creating standardized fleets with known capabilities and limitations, humanity had been forced to innovate constantly. Their apparent weakness, Their lack of standardization had become their greatest strength. "You let us believe you were primitive," Kefvar accused. "We never claimed to be advanced," Chen corrected. "You assumed we were primitive because our technology doesn't look like yours. That's a mistake many species have made throughout history." The aftermath of the battle was unlike anything in recorded galactic history. Instead of demanding tribute or territory, the humans began organizing rescue operations for the disabled hegemony ships. Human vessels that had been weapons of war moments before reconfigured themselves into mobile repair platforms and medical stations. "Why?" Kefvar asked as he watched human engineers working alongside hegemony crew members to restore power to a disabled destroyer. "Why help us after we threatened your world?" Chen considered the question carefully. "Because that's what humans do. We adapt, we overcome, and then we help others do the same. Your hegemony has ruled through fear and superior firepower for 3,000 years. But fear only works until someone stops being afraid." The political ramifications rippled across the galaxy within days. The hegemony, the ancient, seemingly invincible empire that had dominated this sector since before most species had achieved spaceflight, had been defeated by a collection of what appeared to be scrap metal held together with determination and ingenuity. But more than that, they had been defeated by an enemy that chose mercy over massacre, cooperation over conquest. Other species began to take notice. If the humans could stand up to the hegemony and win, what did that mean for the established galactic order? More importantly, if the humans were willing to help even their enemies, what kind of allies might they make? The answer came in the form of the Terran Accords, signed 6 months later on Earth itself. Instead of joining the hegemony as a client species, humanity found itself at the center of a new alliance, one based on mutual cooperation rather than domination. The signing ceremony took place in Geneva, in the same building where humans had once struggled to maintain peace on their own world. Representatives from 47 different species attended, including Kefvar himself, who had become something of an advocate for the new approach to galactic relations. "The humans have taught us something valuable," he addressed the assembly. "True strength doesn't come from having the biggest fleet or the most powerful weapons. It comes from the ability to adapt, to learn, and to choose cooperation over conquest." Admiral Chen, now bearing the title of Earth's first galactic ambassador, stood before the gathered delegates. "The universe is vast and full of challenges that no single species can face alone. But together, adapting and learning from each other, there's no problem we can't solve." As the ceremony concluded and the various delegations prepared to return to their homeworlds, Chen found herself standing once again at a viewport, looking out at the stars. But this time, she wasn't alone. Ships from dozens of different species filled the space around Earth, not as conquerors or overlords, but as partners in humanity's next great adventure. The patchwork fleet that had once seemed so crude and improvised now looked like exactly what it was, a symbol of humanity's greatest strength. Not the ability to build the most powerful weapons or the fastest ships, but the capacity to take whatever materials were at hand and create something that worked. And in a galaxy full of species that had forgotten how to adapt, that ability was the most powerful weapon of all. If this story of human ingenuity resonating across the galaxy inspired you, smash that like button and tell us in the comments about your favorite underdog victory. Whether it's from a game, movie, or real life. The transformation of galactic politics didn't happen overnight, but it was irreversible. The old system of might makes right began to crumble as species after species chose to join the Terran Alliance rather than submit to traditional empires. The humans didn't demand tribute or territory. They offered something far more valuable, the chance to be part of something greater than the sum of its parts. Within a decade, the Alliance had grown to include over 200 species, each contributing their unique strengths to the collective whole. The hegemony, rather than being destroyed or humiliated, found itself evolving as well, abandoning its authoritarian structure in favor of the cooperative model the humans had demonstrated. HFY, now serving as the hegemony's representative to the Alliance Council, often reflected on that day at Nexus Station, when everything changed. The humans had won not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through something far more fundamental: the understanding that true strength came from diversity, adaptation, and the willingness to help others succeed. The galaxy had laughed at humanity's patchwork fleet, their improvised technology, their apparent weakness. But in the end, those very qualities had proven to be their greatest assets. In a universe where most species had become comfortable with their limitations, humanity had retained the one trait that mattered most: the refusal to accept that something couldn't be done. And that, more than any weapon or warship, was what made them truly dangerous to those who sought to dominate through fear, and truly valuable to those who chose to build through cooperation. The stars themselves seemed brighter now, filled with the promise of what could be achieved when different species worked together, each contributing their unique strengths to solve the challenges that lay ahead. Thank you. The age of galactic empires was ending, replaced by something humanity had always understood, but the galaxy was only beginning to learn: that the whole could indeed be greater than the sum of its parts. As Admiral Chen often said in her speeches to new Alliance members, "We didn't come to the stars to conquer them. We came to make them home. And home is something you build together." The universe was vast and full of wonders yet to be discovered, challenges yet to be overcome, and species yet to be met. But for the first time in galactic history, those challenges would be faced not by individual empires seeking dominance, but by a true alliance of worlds working together toward a common future. And at the heart of it all was humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy: the understanding that sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't a weapon at all. It's the willingness to help your enemy become your friend. Before we wrap up this epic tale, hit that subscribe button if you want more stories about humanity's place among the stars. And drop a comment telling us about your favourite city on Earth, the place that represents humanity's potential to you. The legacy of that first battle continued to echo through the generations that followed. A reminder that in a universe full of ancient empires and established powers, sometimes the greatest revolution comes not from those who seek to tear down the old order, but from those who simply refuse to accept that things have to stay the way they've always been. And in the end, that refusal to accept limitations, that fundamentally human trait of looking at an impossible situation and asking, "But what if we tried anyway?" proved to be the key that unlocked a future none of them could have imagined alone. But all of them could build together.